ndakatumwa kubata basa chandinacho ndechekuti basa risina kuitwa na vamugabe, risina kuitwa na vatsvangirai, risina kuitwa na vangomo. Ndonoripedzisa, ndapedza basa ndodzokerawo kukoko, ndoti basa ndasiya ndapedza. Nyika ndakagadzira, ndakakanika nyika.
I want to remind the opposition and the handlers that State House is very far. Zviri nani kuti vafambe vachienda kuAmerica vanosvika. Kufamba kuita kustatus vanochembera vagofa vasina kusvika.
We have got an extractive system of governance that is not given to the people but just extracting from the people. That is going to come to an end. Those are the things we're promising Zimbabweans, that you're going to get a servant leadership.
Names are on the presidential ballot as Zimbabwe heads to August 23, where we will be electing the president, member of parliament, and councillors. We here on this, the Free Talk, in proud partnership with the Frederick Newman Foundation, we've made it our obligation to ensure that you hear the policies, the vision for all those who are looking for your vote for presidency. And on this, the Free Talk, in proud partnership, the Frederick Newman Foundation, we bring you the presidential candidates, their vision, their aspirations, and the future of Zimbabwe. Now join me just after this break as we talk policy, people, power, and politics ahead of August 23. Now welcome back to this, the Free Talk, in proud partnership with the Frederick Newman Foundation here on Heart and Soul TV and radio. And I, your host as usual, Dara B. Now in studio this evening, we are joined by one of the presidential candidates, Joseph Busha, and he will be talking to us about his policy, his vision, and his chances for winning this election. Thank you and welcome to the show.
Thank you, Bamusha.
Beautiful. Now, let us just start from a basic, in under 3 minutes, introduction about what you stand for, your party, and the vision.
I stand for peace, freedom, and equitable development. You must understand that since the arrival of the settlers in Zimbabwe, from the first Chimurenga, the fight for Zimbabweans was total self-determination. And total determination means that we must decide our own destiny as Zimbabweans. We must be able to use the natural resources that are God-given for the benefit of our people. So that's not happening. So what I want to do from a policy perspective is first to make sure that as Zimbabweans, we are all happy. So our domestic policy is really around the fact that there must be freedom, there must be civil liberties, there must be self-respect, and we want to restore our dignity as the first thing, as a people. Because if we are not united and we are not proud to be Zimbabweans and there's no dignity to the human being in Zimbabwe, then you don't have a sense of belonging. After that, we need to be able to work the land, use the land for our benefit. Underneath the soil, we have mineral resources which we believe should make Zimbabwe the #1 producer of energy solutions in Africa.
But these things that you're talking about are the same things that those who are in power already are talking about. So what are the issues that are different that people should decide? They want to choose you instead of keeping those in power in office.
Well, they've been talking about them, but they've never been practicing them. If they are talking about them, I haven't heard them talking about respecting the Zimbabweans and making sure that we fulfill what those who sweated, those who lost their lives, those who lost their limbs during the liberation struggle lost for. So they haven't done that. So if you have had 43 years of being in power, there should be no question in terms of the direction where Zimbabwe is going. We are where we are today, where we don't have our own currency, where we cannot even build our own airport and parliament, despite the fact that the doors of education were opened in 1980 by the late R.G. Mugabe. So when you say that they are talking about the same, who built the the airport? It's the Chinese. Who built the parliament? The Chinese. Who built Great Zimbabwe? It's our forefathers. So that's what I'm talking about. We need to restore our own dignity. We need to make sure Zimbabweans participate in building their own country.
Are you saying President Emerson Mnangagwa has failed to restore the dignity of Zimbabweans?
Am I saying that President Mnangagwa has failed to restore the dignity of Zimbabweans? Is there dignity of Zimbabweans when Zimbabweans are being ridiculed at hospitals outside Zimbabwe, when Zimbabweans are walking the streets of Johannesburg, Botswana, Gaborone, and everywhere as vendors? Is that dignity? When people are sleeping outside toilets at the borders, is that dignity? When people are being forced to move out of their land for mining and their graves are being dug, is that dignity?
But you talk about these things. When we look at rallies that are going on at the moment, a lot of people, in fact thousands, in their thousands, they come to ZANU-PF rallies and they identify with ZANU-PF. They identify with Nyika Inowakwanewe Nevayo. What are you doing to ensure that these people who identify with this understand what you're talking about?
But when you say Nyika Inowakwanewe Nevayo, who built the airports and parliament? Is that Zimbabweans? And who is doing the mining? Is that Zimbabweans? So we need to be able to understand rhetoric to say, do we really mean what we say? But also, we cannot measure success or improvement or development with the people who go to rallies. People were flocking into rallies when Mai Mugabe, Grace Mugabe were shouting at people. They would go and clap. So it's unfortunate that as Zimbabweans, our people actually have kind of come down to that level where it doesn't matter what people are saying as long as they go to the rallies. Possibly they've got nothing to do. And hence they're flocking to the rallies. But if you flock into the rallies, are you going on your own or are you getting a free ride? Let's make sure that the people who are going to the rallies are actually investing their own money to go to the rallies. Then we know they are committed to the cause. So there's no difference between the people who would be clapping and ululating when the former First Lady was shouting at different leaders in the country. But those are the same crowds that are actually still going to these rallies. So going into a rally is not a measure, okay, of that people are happy. The measure is found at Mbare, Pamusiga, the measure is found at Machipisa, the measure is found in all these streets where people are hustling.
Are you saying people in Zimbabwe are not happy?
Well, some are happy, some are not happy. I'm more happy because I don't want to see my people, my fellow Zimbabweans, sleeping outside toilets at the Bedbridge border. I want to do something for them. That's what I'm saying. Us, Wagonwebasa, Tawuya, we want to be able to complete the reasons why we went to war. We want to be able to respect the tenets of the liberation struggle. We want to make sure that we complete the triangle of independence. We want to make sure that in Africa, right now in Africa, we should be talking about total self-determination. And that is economic improvement, that is social development, and that is political independence. When you complete that, because those are the things we wanted to do, self-rule, decide our own destiny, make sure that our people participate in economic activities. But if you are taking a stone, quarry stones, as it is as a stone, outside without beneficiation, so what do you mean by that? That's not development. A stone, is very simple, where you just cut it, or whatever the case is. But stones are still being shipped out of the country. Well, that means that all our young people who are studying engineering, who are studying whatever technology, they failed to actually beneficiate the stone as it is. The only thing we can do is make the memorial stones for graves. That's the only thing that is being made in Zimbabwe.
Now, President,
Yes.
tell us what is the missing link that you think you bring in that has stopped Zimbabwe from achieving these things in terms of your policy, the nuances that will make us achieve those things?
The missing link really is commitment to the freedom of the African man and woman. To be able to give hope and turn it into reality to the many Zimbabweans we have. In 1980, schools, the doors were opened and there was hope in Zimbabwe. There was happiness in Zimbabwe. People were looking forward to a great Zimbabwe. We were the breadbasket of Africa. And today, Zimbabwe should be the leading country in energy solutions. We are the biggest holder of lithium in Africa and among the top 10 in the world. That should tell you that if we had the experience and the vision and the tacit knowledge, the know-how, how to take what we have as our assets, convert that into economic benefit, Zimbabwe would be better. So what's missing in Zimbabwe is committed leaders who are selfless, committed leaders who want to do something for the child next door as much as they would want to do for themselves. I'll give you an example. One of the best supporters of our liberation struggle, the late president of Tanzania, Julius Nyerere, when he retired, he went back to his village. No one can go and point that this building belonged to Nyerere or his children. He was never accused of corruption. He lived a humble life because he was a servant of the people. But today, leaders in Zimbabwe, the minute they get into government, they are rich. Even if you've worked for 40 years and you get 1 million per year, the assets they have do not match what they have earned. People were building 40-roomed houses in Zimbabwe when Parenyato Hospital does not even have enough rooms.
When you say people, can you give us names so that people can, our viewers can contextualize and see this?
No. I mean, you are aware that there are lots of riches in Zimbabwe. You can see with the houses. Is there any lifestyle audit for some of the people who possess some of those things they do possess? So you can just find out if somebody earns $1,000 a month. Certainly they can't afford a car worth $60,000, right? Okay. So we're not going to reduce that, to be able to say let's go and name this and that, this and that. But I think the reality of the matter is that there's a massive disconnect between the top leadership, okay, and the bottom. That's why basically, in Zimbabwe today, people cannot accept to trade in their own currency. People want the US dollar. Now, when you trade in a foreign currency, okay, then it means that you are not independent because you can't effect monetary policy. If I go to America, I can't go and change the RTGS. But if an American come here, they don't have to identify Zimbabwe with their own currency. So that's what we want to restore. And that's the pride I want to do. That Zimbabweans don't have to go outside to seek medical aid. Zimbabwe do not have to go outside to be a maid. And when we train, and I'm grateful for that, our nurses, our caregivers, they don't have to go to UK, to be able to look after the aged.
Now, you work in South Africa, is that correct?
No, I work in Zimbabwe, I work in Sadaka, I work everywhere. I'm a businessman, so I work in Africa, I'm African, so I work here in Zambia, I work in Lesotho, I work in Eswatini, I've got office in South Africa, and I've got office in Zimbabwe, and I live in Mrewa.
Most of the times you're traveling, you're out of the country, how do you connect with the people and their challenges?
That's not very true. So that's a perception and propaganda people have been giving, right? If you go to Mrewa, you go to my local church, if I miss one Sunday, they're going to see me the next Sunday. So people then say, how do you connect? But you've got people who live in Harare, Bulawayo, who never go to homes or anywhere across the Zimbabwe. So how do they connect? There's no one who can claim to be connected to the people more than I.
Where are you campaigning, President Busha?
Well, we're starting our campaign in earnest tomorrow. We were in Gwanda, we were at Bedbridge, we were in Bulawayo, Kadoma. On Saturday, we will be in Kadoma. And the whole of next week, I think, will be in Harare, so that people get to understand that, the real people who are real leaders, progressive leaders, who understand the strength of Zimbabwe have now come. That's why, if you look in terms of our tagline, we are saying "Wagonwe basa taoya," and if you look at our slogan, we say "Upenyu kuanu ufumi munyika impilo ebatwini inoto elezwini." What that means is that we need to make sure that the wealth of Zimbabweans must remain in Zimbabwe, and Zimbabweans must be able then to be able to live better, in this global village. But if the economic benefits are decided in terms of the allocation by somebody else, then there is no upenyu in the country.
You once held a press conference, and was talking about you were happy with the 20,000 that was put by ZEC that seemed to exclude the poor. You wanted to push to around 50,000. Are you an elitist? Are you classist?
No, that has got nothing to do with that. You see, if you're seeking public office, you must be ready to give. People are going into politics not to serve, but to benefit. Look at the Pollard people. When they joined Pollard, okay, what did they get? They got cars worth 60,000. They got diplomatic passports. Over the 5 years, tell me, what did Pollard achieve? None of them would go and say to the government that was basically enticing them with these gifts to say, listen, there's no medicines in the hospitals. Okay, so what you need to do, which is done elsewhere, those who are seeking public office, in particular presidential, they must declare their assets. They must say, listen, I've worked, I've got experience, now it's time to give back.
Do you think that people who don't have money, who have not achieved in their personal lives, like wealth, can't lead a country?
No, that's no, I'm not saying that. So we mustn't put this in out of context, right? Okay. When you're serving, what is serving leadership? What is leadership? Leadership is about serving. How do you serve when you're hungry yourself? You need first to be able to demonstrate that you can look after yourself. You cannot go and do Form 6 if you have not passed Form 4. You cannot be a headmaster if you have never been head of department, if you've never done from the ground. Now, so if they are there, why are they going to get these big cars that are costing money? Why can't they say, listen, people don't have buses, don't have transport. I'm not going to buy an expensive car. That's leadership, that's caring. When Jesus was spreading the message of love and God, he was not traveling in luxury cars, he was walking. with the people. So there's this whole conception that leaders must drive in luxury cars at the expense of the taxpayers' money. So why would you want to get somebody to be your president when they don't have a house? Do you think the first thing they will do, they will think about the hospital, their school? They'll think about building their own house. If they never had a car, do you think that they're going to say, well, listen, I'm just going to go near Mushikashika? No, they'll go and get the most expensive cars. I'm here to serve. I'm here to give back to the country. Elected president myself, I won't get a car from government. I'll use that money to build a clinic in every district. I want every school to have a clinic.
So how do you guarantee your safety as you travel around?
What safety?
As
From
a
who?
president.
From who? Safety from who? I've got my own car. My car is safe enough. If I'm saving the people, if they love me, why should I be scared of them? Why should I be scared of them?
So
it's the same thing as pastors. They say they are there to preach the word of God. And the minute they're making money, they've got bodyguards and stuff like that. Why should that? I don't have a bodyguard. Why would people want to kill me? I love them and they love me.
So are you saying all presidents across the world are hated by people?
No, I really don't care about the people across the world. But I'm here to be able to change the narrative. That's manipulation. Anytime you find a leader benefiting more than the people, that's manipulation.
In Zimbabwe, is there manipulation?
Everywhere there's manipulation.
In Zimbabwe in particular?
In Zimbabwe in particular, yes, that's manipulation. How do you say to yourself that an MP must get 40,000 when people have got nothing? They get a car for free. We need to change some of the policies that for you, when you're elected as a councillor, you're entitled to 2 stands at the expense of the people. You're not sharing people. So people are getting elected or they're seeking office for benefits. I just told you about Pollard. Tell me, Mr. Mhlanga, what did you think Pollard people achieved in the 5 years? And do you think that's fair? And do you think that is in line with the constitution of Zimbabwe? That they have, continue to have. They can fly out to seek medical assistance outside when people don't have. And people die in hospitals. Do you think that's fair?
I'm
asking you, tell me, what do you think, Pollard, you as a voter, you as a Zimbabwean, as a taxpayer, okay, what do you think the people in Pollard achieved for you?
Just a few weeks ago, President, I sat down with Kasukuwere, who is seeking who's on the presidential ballot, and he was part of Pollard. He told me that Pollard had made immense achievements, including the bringing in of the multi-currency, including ensuring that our economy is stable. They said that most of the ideas that government implemented came from Pollard.
How is that? Bringing multi-currency is an achievement. In 2009, we had multi-currency. We've even had the Rand and the Pula during the unit government of the late Honorable Trangarai. Is that an achievement? When your own currency despises it, is that an achievement?
He seems to think it's an achievement.
Well, that's wrong. Judge for yourself. When a man thinks that using other people's currency is an achievement when you don't have your own currency, why would people vote for such a man? The person in the village, in Chirezi, in Lupane, in Cholocho, where do they get the dollars from? Is that an achievement? Surely you can't get a man, somebody aspiring to be a leader, saying that, whoa, my achievement was to brought multi-currency as if it's the first time. It's not the first time. If you go to South Africa, you go into a bank, you get rands to trade in rands. If you go to Britain, you get euros or you get pounds to trade in that. If people come into Zimbabwe, they don't need to look for RTGS. Even if they go in there, they don't get it. So what is the multi-currency he's talking about? Because everything now is measured in dollars. You pay in dollars. So there's the RTGS and the dollar. It's our multi-currency. Government actually is fighting to make sure that we have our own domestic currency, and that's what defines sovereignty.
So the government is right?
Well, certainly they are right. So I'm not going to.
So why do you want to remove them?
Why do you want to remove them? Just because they want to maintain a currency that is useless? I'm not trying to remove government. I'm saying get the right person, get the right man or woman to lead the country who will be able to restore our dignity, who will be able to shape the country so that economically Zimbabwe can be competitive. We're currently a consumption country.
He also believed that Pollard brought in some form of peace in this country. He gave an example that as we go into these elections, August 23, we have not seen violence. And this can be attributed to the ability to talk to each other on the
You see,
Pollard
I'm not
platform.
going to talk about what losers in Pollard said and dreamers. I'm not going to talk about that. Let's talk about real stuff. Let's talk about real leaders. In Zimbabwe, in 2018, the person who won elections was President Mnangagwa, followed by Advocate Chamisa. If Chamisa was not part of Pollard, okay, if I was not part of Pollard as the third most popular candidate in 2018, I mean, then do you really want me to sit down and listen to people who says that I brought out currency or Pollard brought out currency in Zimbabwe and that's a success just because they got cars and passports and farms at the expense of other people? Do you have to, to be in government to get a car? That's co-option. Those are people basically who are going there for themselves. So don't believe that people who are seeking to be elected want to save Zimbabweans. They think there will be another Pollard. This time we won't allow for Pollard. Pollard was illegal. It was a corrupt act.
Do you think you have the chance to win this election?
Do I think I've got a chance to win these elections? I would not have been participating if I didn't have a chance, and I would not be participating if I did not believe I've got the prerequisite experience and knowledge to be able to turn this country around.
In the last election, you performed very, very poorly.
No problem. We were 23 candidates. I came number 4. And there's a chance that this time from number 4 I can be number 1. That's what you do. You seek to improve all the time. By the way, at school, that was the same. Sometimes I get number 3, sometimes I get number 1. But I was never worse than number 3. From all my primary school. Actually, primary was always number 1.
But if we count spoiled ballots, you were below spoiled ballots.
So I'm sure you told all those people in Pollard the same story, okay? But I'm saying, okay, so you're going to be able to use that. You never saw me campaign in 2018. Basically, I was just introducing myself to the electorate. But this time I'm going to campaign. But I think, we're not going to be able to hang on to the past. Let's look forward. Let's look to say, what am I bringing?
But history is important, President.
History is important.
It's very, very important, President Busha.
That's why I came number 4. That's what I'm saying to you this time. After the elections, I will be possibly number 1. And after the elections, I'm going to be very involved to make sure that we get Zimbabwe working for the benefit of Zimbabweans.
You said you didn't campaign in the last election.
No.
Why?
Because I did not have the resources. Everybody is using government resources and stuff like that. You see, if you were to compare all the presidents, in particular the current president, he's using ZANU-PF infrastructure. ZANU-PF have been there since the 60s, and he basically gets the advantage as an incumbent, right? Okay. Right now, our banners are being told, they're being removed. The president's banners are not being removed. That's not fair. Okay, we have places where the president's banners are, like a toll gate. If I stop and put my banner on the fence on a toll gate, would they allow me to do that? The security forces and the police and the army that is there, they won't allow me to do that. So that's unfair. So already the playing field is not fair, right? Then you change the rules in the middle of an election. All of a sudden, banners must be, or billboards must be approved right in the middle of elections. So those are some of the electoral reforms we want changed after that. So you need to be able to see basically that, despite what they say about peace, what they say about level playing field, is not leveled, because you need to stick police clearance before you can campaign. But once the president announces election date, I don't think that we should seek police clearance. We should inform them that we're going to have a meeting as long as the stadium or the place, the venue is free, and then we must be able to campaign. So all those are impediments. All those basically lead to an unlevel playing field. So when people say are elections free and fair, it's not just the act, the event. It's basically the run up to that.
Why are you then participating in something that you actually see is unfree and unfair, as you say?
Oh, but we want to correct that. It does not mean that you're going to stop, when you've got a calling, you're not going to stop your calling just because somebody, is trying to stop you, right? Okay, it's a commitment. This is a calling. So I'm not doing this really just because I think, oh, let me just go and try and campaign. What I want to do is fulfill the dreams and aspirations of all those who participated in the liberation struggle. I want to fulfill the dreams and aspirations of the children of Zimbabwe. I want to fulfill the dreams and the aspirations of all Africans. I want to make sure that those who founded OAU, Organization of African Unity, Kwame Nkrumah, and all the other leaders, get to see from above that at last there is a son of Africa who wants to make sure that those principles, the things we wanted to do, are finally going to bear fruit. That's what I want to do. I want to be able to praise Julius Nyerere and that thank you for giving us shelter. We're going to do and make you proud. I want to do that for Samora Machel, our biggest supporter who gave us more bases, that listen, we are here. Tomorrow we can help Mozambique. Today we cannot even help Mozambique because we're also battling economically. I want to make sure that all those people who were displaced in the farms, the workers, the farm workers that were displaced, okay, they got a job. I want to make sure that all the places that don't have running water, electricity, and other facilities, in particular recreational facilities, they do have them so that our children have got something else to do, to look forward, and they don't get involved in drugs. I want to make sure Zimbabwe is great again, to restore, to make sure that we're self-sufficient from a food production perspective, and that we are the breadbasket of Africa again.
President Busha, is education an issue for you in this election?
Education is an issue. COVID came in and COVID showed that those who have can have because they carried on with online. So education is very vital, and we need to make, so what makes Zimbabweans possibly great and appreciated sometimes is purely because of the education levels and the literacy levels we have, okay? So I believe education is very important, but we cannot just educate our people when we don't give them an option and the chances to work. So we've got all these graduates that are roaming the streets without anything because there are no job opportunities. In Zimbabwe, it must be a sin, we must be shamed, that you've got an agricultural student, okay, who don't have a job when you've got the land. How's that? It's ironic, right? I want to make sure that every child at Shinga, Pikilela, at Chibero, whoever who has done agriculture, animal husbandry and stuff like that, they are guaranteed of a job. Mark the words, guaranteed, not looking for a job. They are guaranteed for a job because we want to work the land and make sure that we're self-sufficient. I want to make sure that people from Somalia, Sudan, and wherever in Africa that don't have food, they don't get yellow maize from America or overseas. We provide the food ourselves.
Is corruption an issue for you in this election?
Corruption is a big issue. I'm talking about that next week on my press conference. Corruption is a cancer we need to remove from the majority of Zimbabweans. Corruption is what has led us to where we are. The late President Mugabe said 15 billion went missing. Nobody's looking for the criminals and ways to recover the money. So corruption is a big issue in Zimbabwe. It's a cancer, not only in Zimbabwe, I guess in Africa and parts of the world.
The current government has put in place the Zimbabwe Anti-Corruption Commission. Do you think it's doing its job well?
What are the measures, really? So when you say something is doing well, right, it has to do with the rate of reduction of corruption. It has to say, well, we've identified so and so and so and so. This is what they did, and we've held them accountable. Then it's got teeth. But you see, you can put any instrument or anything, but as long as it does not bring desired results, then it's meaningless. So we've got a constitution. Are we respecting the constitution?
Are we?
No, I don't think there is respect of the constitution. This constitution has been violated by those in power. Are we looking after every Zimbabwean? If you look at the Bill of Rights, the rights to education, the rights to this and that, children, protection of children. You've got a child who fell pregnant and died at 14 giving birth. Was there any consequences on that?
President Busha, what is your view or your position on the LGBT community? Because this has been an issue for many in Zimbabwe.
I think, I want to focus on building the country.
Is that not part of building the country?
I didn't say that. I just said, let's focus on the key issues. Let's make sure that the economy is working, people have food and jobs.
Rights of the minority, is that not a key issue?
It is a key issue. I just
So
talked about
what is your view about it?
About what? No, everybody's free.
It's a thorny issue?
Sorry?
It's a thorny issue that you don't want to express yourself around it?
I've just expressed that we want to protect everybody, including children, including the aged, the disabled, and marginalized people. We've got kids who are going into school, mad schools in Zimbabwe. We want to make sure that we eradicate that and some of the diseases that can be eradicated. So we want to make sure that every Zimbabwean is happy. That's what I talked about.
Let us talk about what are the other issues for you and your political party. What are the other issues that you think Zimbabwe should put first in this election?
Zimbabweans, what they must put first in these elections is peace. That's the first thing. The second thing they must put basically is that they must be able to choose the person they believe is most experienced to be able to deliver, to be able to make sure that Zimbabweans galvanize, come together. Like in 1980, you could feel the happiness, you could feel the hope, you could see people. If you went into First Street in the 80s, you would be happy to see people after doing apprenticeships, right? What we used to call apprenticeships, graduating in their overalls, technicians. That's what we want to do. Every Zimbabwean knew that with 5 O levels, you're guaranteed to get a job as a technician or something. That's what I want to do. I want to make sure that Zimbabwe becomes again the center of education in Africa, and that's the claim that Zimbabweans are educated in their literate is basically not a fluke. I want to make sure that education as a sector contributes to the GDP, that our children don't have to go to China, Russia to study, because they have to go and learn another language before they can do it, and when they come back here they don't have a job and possibly don't even come back. I want to make sure that we build a very, very, very strong Zimbabweans, and that every person will understand this is Zimbabwe. Zimbabwe, if you look in terms of empire and history, Zimbabwe and Egypt and some few countries are the only countries basically that have got a rich history of our ancestors.
Let me take you to the Zimbabwe Electoral Commission. Do you think they're doing a very good job or a good job towards these elections?
I think there needs to be reforms. There need to be reforms by the Zimbabwe Electoral Commission, which I'm going to engage them extensively after these elections. And one of them is that you saw obviously the chaos that happened during the nomination court, where people say, well, I didn't have this currency, I had this currency, or I deposited my money, but I did not reflect. Those things should not happen in this country. Right? Okay. You talked about this guy. You said he was proud. Said we produced multi-currency as a success, but people struggled to pay for the nomination because either they didn't have the local currency or they didn't have the foreign currency, which is the US dollar. So I think there's a lot of work that needs to be done. But certainly, I think for me, when I went to ZEC, my experience was okay. They were very helpful. They were very friendly in terms of the officers and so on. But I think, you know, for you to be able to change a system, right? Okay, you need to make sure that the father of the nation or mother of the nation, the overall leadership, okay, set the tone in terms of how things are done. You know, up to now, you know, you've got people who are taking ZEC to court because you know, they were withdrawn as candidates. We've got one candidate in Bulawayo who is alleged that, you know, you paid late, but if you paid late, who accepted the money? So at the point of paying your nomination fee, if the money was paid on time, how can it be that then that it's late? So we need to make sure that those administrative issues are sorted out. But I don't have a problem with people. You know, people basically take clue from leadership, and under my leadership, Zimbabwe will be far much better and happier.
Amazing. Let us talk about Xavier Kasukuwere was removed from the ballot. Do you think this has any effect on the election?
I don't think there's any effect. I mean, these are sideshows.
Why do you say that these are sideshows?
Well, you see, this is a tragedy. This is a tragedy of mankind and human beings. But also, this is the beauty about democracy, because everybody is free to go and campaign or to put their name forward and so on. And ZEC has got rules in terms of candidates qualifying. So surely, you know, there were things that they might have identified, you know, to say, well, you actually don't qualify to be on the ballot box. And those are the things that, as I said to you, they need to be possibly made more clearer and changed, you know, after this election, so that we don't face the same problem in the future.
Some people have actually argued, Mr. President, that this election is being decided more in the courts than in the ballot. What is your view?
Fair enough. I think there's a mix of that. So as I said to you, elections it's not an event, it's a process, it's an everyday experience. So if people are not free, you know, and freedom is not really just the outside, it's how you feel inside, how secure you are. You are aware, as I mentioned to you, my banners are being removed, so we decided possibly won't put banners in there. So the elections, these elections, possibly they're just a fiasco as far as I'm concerned. But for me, I'm saying to you, okay, now if you are in a war, okay, like say during our liberation struggle, and things are not going well, you don't give up. You know, if you don't have, you know, if your leader makes a mistake, okay, you then don't walk away and fight with the enemy. So I'm not going to fight with the enemy. I want to be part of any person trying to destroy Zimbabwe or discredit Zimbabwe. But I'm saying I'm going to be part of the solution, and that's the reason why I'm contesting.
You say that this election is probably going to be a fiasco, right?
Yes.
Why? You have confidence in winning this fiasco?
Well, at the end of the day, people are going to make choices, right? But it does not mean that if the result is coming through, any one of the ingredients might not have been put together well, okay? It's a fiasco because we've got 12 candidates of Triple C that have been disqualified. I've got one that has been disqualified, okay? Then also, you know, you've got all these court cases coming through. Then you have got in the middle of elections where, you know, your banners cannot be put, your billboards cannot be put unless if they are approved. Surely those things must not happen. That's what I'm saying to you. There needs to be a relook at the electoral process, and we need electoral reforms. Okay, so when people are observing outside, what is it? You know, you can't be going to court now. It's 20 days to elections, but people are still going to court to, you know, to be decided whether they must participate or not. When are they going to print the voting cards? So that becomes a fiasco. 20 days before, we don't know how many presidents are going to there. One constituency, Kulumane, where my candidate is, they don't know If her name is going to be there, she does not know whether she has to campaign or not campaign because she's waiting for the courts to decide. That's a fiasco. You think you're a candidate, but you're just waiting there, right? Anxiously, like you're a soccer player, as a substitute just on the touchline, but it's 90 minutes, but the coach is still telling you, no, train. It's 89 and the referee is going to blow the whistle.
What do you think, President Busha, Zimbabweans should do to ensure that their country also stands among nations and be counted, and we don't have these fiascos that you're talking about?
That's a very good point and a very good question. I want to call upon all Zimbabweans. The first is you are Zimbabwean, you are African. The first thing you do, your first responsibility is to guard Zimbabwe's interests. That's your first responsibility. And then work with those of like minds where you've got a shared vision, shared values to get Zimbabwe better. I remember in 2018-17, I wrote to the US ambassador to Zimbabwe that they must remove Zidera. And you had other people who think, sanctions must remain in Zimbabwe. So what I'm saying to all Zimbabweans is that we have certain differences in terms of how to do things and so on, but we must have things we believe in, things we share as a people. One of them is to safeguard Zimbabweans' interests, to make sure that our natural resources don't go out without being processed to create jobs, to make sure that we promote peace, to make sure that we don't fight each other because we belong to different political parties.
But as you speak about Zidera, do you think, or do you then support the law that was put in place just recently, that was signed by the president, the Patriotic Act? Do you support that?
Zidera and the Patriotic Act are a totally different thing altogether. Zidera is about sanctions imposed on Zimbabwe by the United States of America and their friends. And I'm saying sanctions as a tool to enforce another government to change certain things has never been effective anyway. It has never worked anyway. It actually hurts the people more. So let's sit on Zidera. I say I don't believe Zidera must be repealed and there must be no sanctions on Zimbabwe. In terms of the act that has been put in, we believe that if any act is put in place that restricts Zimbabweans' freedom, civil liberties, rights of association, freedom, and so participation, and so on, assembly, that's wrong. That's wrong.
Do you think the government of the day is using law to silence people of Zimbabwe?
They've always, the government of Zimbabwe have always been doing that. So nothing has changed really. That's what I told you. In the event that I want to have a meeting, I must go and seek clearance. And if I say things that could be misconstrued to be disrespecting somebody, you get arrested. Those things are wrong. Because, we've got people sometimes who are not fully trained, who are not respecting the citizens, who don't understand the Constitution, who believe that by virtue of them having a certain position, they can just arrest and harass you. We want to work together as Zimbabwe. I want Zimbabweans to understand. Do you know Nzira Soja, one of the guides in our liberation struggle, was not to kushungurudza ruzhinji rweZimbabwe, was one of them. Was to respect each other, was one of them. Was to respect, our culture, our ways of life, our traditional leaders, our ancestors, was one of them. So we're not sticking to certain things that got us to where we are in terms of winning the war against the settlers.
Why do you think you're better than Nelson Chamisa?
I believe that basically right now, I don't know why you're restricting to Advocate Chamisa.
I've asked you about President Mnangagwa, so I'm going to someone else.
Well, I'm the best candidate in the sense that I'm more experienced for what Zimbabwe needs today. Zimbabwe needs somebody who understands capital allocation, finance, economic models. That's what we're looking for.
You think Nelson Chamisa doesn't understand?
He's a lawyer. I'm an investment expert. I'm an investment manager. Understand how to appraise the project. If you ask me the price of any commodity, I can tell you where it is. Okay? You must understand running a country, being a president of a country, is like multidisciplinary process, right? You need to understand operations management, you need to understand engineering, you need to understand finance, you need to understand mathematics. Okay? Because they all come together, okay? So that you are able. So if I were to go and say Zimbabwe must borrow money, okay? No, let me give you why I'm trying to talk about my experience, right? I will be able to tell National Treasury that I want the bond to be structured this way because I understand what is the bond. I don't need to read it. So you don't want to say my technocrat is going to work on this. Let me structure this. Okay. If the central bank governor talks about monetary policy, I don't want somebody to interpret for me. I can interpret, I can make inferences, and I can tell the governor that no, this is wrong as a policy. You need to be able to say, when you're managing that, do you target inflation? Do you target jobs to be able to grow the country? How do you manage that? So you don't want a person to say, no, I've got so and so, but when they come, you say, what did he say?
So for instance, if the country is looking to make laws, you're going to understand them.
What? I don't understand laws?
You said something around Nelson Chamisa is a lawyer.
Yes.
And he doesn't understand business, right?
Finance. He's not
So,
a specialist in finance. I'm saying Zimbabwe right now is looking for economic solutions, not laws.
but laws are part of economic solutions, aren't they?
No. It's just, so that's, law is such a common sense, by the way. There's nothing really special about law. It's common sense.
Julius Malema,
As long as you know the right and the wrong. Okay, let's go.
Julius Malema once said that he doesn't need to understand the economy to be a president. He said he needs the right people around him to give him proper advice. Do you think that makes sense?
It doesn't make sense because you need to understand that advice. You need to interpret that. You can't say that, no, I don't need to know anything. I just need everybody to understand. But you need to be able to comprehend because there's also terminology and language. So leave that alone, right? Okay. So you must understand, this is what I talk about manipulation. That
Jacob Zuma was the president of South Africa. He couldn't even pronounce numbers.
That's why the country is where it is. What is he facing? How did he get out of power? That's the tragedy of humankind. The fact that he was president does not mean that he was the best man for the job. That's the tragedy of humankind. We had Idi Amin. It does not mean Idi Amin was a good person. He was president. And unfortunately, some people believed him and followed him. We had Francois Ngwema in Equatorial Guinea. You had Hitler in Germany. Does not mean that they're the right people for the job. So what you need to do is we need to be able to understand, right, psychology and human mind and manipulation that has happened over the years, okay, from time immemorial. So those examples, I'm hoping that actually I've just answered you so that nobody can ask that question again. That, no, I don't have to know anything, I'll get experts. I mean, how are you going to understand them? If that is the case. Okay, I want to be a doctor. I don't have to be a doctor, but I'm going to call doctor to say, okay, I'm going to have patience, but cure this guy. No, it does not work like that.
Some of the people who have been very successful, you talk about your sports persons, you talk about people like Michael Jordan, one of the most successful. He's not a business expert. He's just a basketball player.
Yeah.
But he's more successful than those who went to school to start business.
What is success? So you need to be able to define what is success. Okay. So when you say somebody is an A student, it means that obviously they've been getting A's throughout, or an A student. So Michael Jordan spent hours and hours and hours of training, and he was good at what he was. He did, and that's how he got money. So I respect him. I respect sports people. Usain Bolt would run 100 meters in less than 10 seconds. But it took lots of hours, lots of years of training and dedication. So it's about basically being able to do something repeatedly for a very long time and successfully so. Okay? Now, when you look at those people in government today, if they were to apply to say, I want to be president of another country, people say, show us your experience, what did you achieve? So these guys here in Zimbabwe, the president of Zimbabwe, if it was possible that he could apply to be president of South Africa, the South Africans will say, no, you do not achieve anything in Zimbabwe because Zimbabwe is betting, so you are not qualified. Your experience counts for nothing because there was no success. So experience, when people put their CV, they talk about things they have achieved to say, listen, look what I did here. I'm now coming to turn around your country or come back to do better. So these guys have been in government. All these guys we're talking about. Advocate Chamisa, a young man I like, by the way, and I want to mentor him after I become president.
You think he needs mentoring?
Yeah, he needs mentorship. He's too young. So lots of years ago, he's only 45, and I'm going for 60. So he does not have my experience I have. So you see the tragedy you're talking about. So we had Patrick Chinamasa as Minister of Finance, then MDC thought they can also get a lawyer to be Minister of Finance, and nothing happened. That tragedy of humankind.
Amazing. Why do you think you are better than Elizabeth Valerie?
Okay, so you studied very well, right? You talked about the real candidates, which is President Mnangagwa. We respect him because he's the incumbent, and Advocate Chamisa because certainly he came number 2. I respect him. That's why I said to you, having Pollard without Chamisa was a useless exercise, and me. So let's restrict ourselves to those two. Those are the, so we are 3 candidates. I'm the leading candidate.
Why? Because Valerie is a woman?
No, she's fantastic. I didn't say that. So people there, in 2018 we had lots of 23 candidates, and the people were saying, Ma'am Juru was a VP, she would do well. Dr. Nkosana is this and that, but I did better than them. So I'm saying to you is like, okay, you were talking about probabilities, right, of things, right? So there's the president and there's Advocate Chamisa who did very well, right? Okay, and it was number 3. So she might do, but let's talk about those 2 and stop there.
Amazing. As we close, President Busha, what message would you want to share with the people of Zimbabwe? From your heart, that not a question for me, but an opportunity for you to just look the people of Zimbabwe in the eye and share the message that you'd want to share with them.
What I want to say to my fellow Zimbabweans, to all Africans, that it's now time to use the most powerful thing you possess, and that's the power to choose. Choose a leader who cares about you, who thinks about you. Choose a leader who represents your aspirations, you share values with and visions with. Choose a leader who is principled. There's no other time other than now to be able to choose that leader. And I'm raising my hands to say I'm here to complete the triangle of independence. Socio-political independence, economic independence, the territorial independence is there. Let's think of all the foreign heroes and the masses that are struggling in Zimbabwe to just look after their families. And let's do better, make Zimbabwe great again. And I'm your candidate.
I wish you the best in what you are doing. And we are Zimbabweans. We are one country. We are one people. It is important for us to be able to have an opportunity to have a say on who governs our country. It is not about President Busha on the ballot box, whether he wins or loses. It's not about Nelson Chamisa or Emmerson Mnangagwa. It is about the future of Zimbabweans. It is therefore all collectively our responsibility as a people to make a decision on how to change our nation in a trajectory that our children and their children will be proud of. We need to come together as a people and talk to each other. And this is the platform that we offer here on Heart and Soul TV and radio in proud partnership with the Frederick Newman Foundation for Freedom. Free talk. We talk freely. Thank you very much for joining us. This is the Free Talk, as always, and I, your host, Dara Blessed Mhlanga, saying, let us all do our civic duties. Let us be Zimbabweans at heart, build our nation, and use the ballot to shape policy, direction, and people. Until next time, I was in conversation with presidential candidate Joseph Makamba-Busha, and he wants your vote. Thank you very much, President.
Thank you, Baba Mhlanga.